So I figured out a format for my color chart. Again, this you can create however you want, whatever seems useful to you. You might experiment with a few different ways of making color swatches and what, you know, what's going to be useful to you. I think having at least a couple dilutions is good. So you can see the color pretty strong. Now with watercolor, you know, when you load the brush, you want to not apply it just straight like say an acrylic. This is one of the first things I'd say when you're new to watercolor, just to be aware of is how you're diluting it with water. If it's applied too thickly, it can crack. So you want to work in some water. I'm gonna do two or let's see what I've written for, 2 or 3 dilutions. So, okay, here I go. I've got 15 sections. I've left myself, I'm gonna do rows across. I've left myself some room to write information about each pigment. I'm gonna blot a little bit, and I'll talk about blotting a little later. But I'm gonna go ahead and do one that's pretty strong color, less diluted, and then I'm gonna add more water, a little more diluted, and do another wash. And I guess I could do one more really light one, because this gives me a good chance to not only get to know my pigments, but just to practice with controlling how much water I'm using. We're gonna talk a lot about that later. And just get a feel for my paints and my brushes, just get a feel for the tools and how everything is working. When I'm ready to change the color out, just spritz of water, or even like dipping your paper towel in water, and you want to make sure your palette's nice and clean between, you know, if as you're doing this testing chart, just to keep each color very pure, straight from the tube. So, you know, mixing you'll experiment with later. I'm gonna test out next my cerulean and my cobalt turquoise. Okay, I'm getting into my cerulean blue and pulling it off the palette, working some water into it. Not too much right now because I want to do a pretty strong swatch with more bold color, but I don't want to apply it thick, you know, so make sure to work some water into it. But I'll add water as I go and make it more diluted. This pigment feels really different than my ultramarine. Okay, and I'm also going to be careful. This is, you know, just all practice, so I'm already dripping splattering paint. So I'm not fully paying attention to what I'm doing, but you know, it's a good opportunity to just get, you know, not only get a feel for your materials, but just practice working with control and being aware of, again, how much water you're working into the paint, getting a feel for removing some of the excess water, blotting with the brush, to do 2 or 3 different washes. Maybe I'll just stick to 2 for that one. And let's try the cobalt next. Okay, I'm getting into the cobalt turquoise. This color, I love this color. It's one of my favorites. All right, working water into it. Gonna go ahead and make a swatch. I think I'll blot once. I'm using a pretty wide, I think this is a 3/4 inch. Yeah, 3/4 inch flat, which is kind of a nice size for a chart like this. You can really use any brush, but give yourself a fairly big brush. Give yourself a good size swatch. Really see the color. Okay, that'll work. As I'm making this chart, since I have excess paint, I'm gonna go ahead and do some washes on this other spare page, just, you know, so I'm not wasting any material, and you know, it'll give me a chance to do something else with this. Work in collage, watercolor and collage can be pretty fun. Here's that cobalt turquoise. Oh, I love it. And then you can also see how it layers with other pigments.